to her allies on this, but we need that ceasefire in place, and it needs to be in place straight away.
I want to clarify your position on transgender, because I'm not sure what it is, looking at the record. Obviously, we know overnight the National Health has stated that, as far as they're concerned, sex is a biological fact, and henceforth they'll be banning trans women from going onto female wards. Now, let's just have a quick look at your record. This will only take about 15 seconds. In 2021, you said that MP Rosie Duffield was wrong to say that only women have a cervix. In the next year, asked to define a woman in an interview in The Times, you said a woman is a female adult. In addition to that, trans women are women. Later that month, you said in an LBC phone-in, well, you just simply refused to answer the question of whether a woman can have a penis. And finally, in 2023, you said that for 99% of women, their gender is completely biological, and of course, they haven't got a penis. So just summarise, where do you stand on transgender and transgender rights? I want to know.
I start with biology.
Yep.
I'm worried about everybody eating their breakfast, by the way, and we're going...
No, don't worry about them. They've got strong stomachs, our viewers.
Biology, and obviously there's a distinction between sex and gender, and the Labour Party has championed women's rights for a very, very long time. Many of the changes in the law are as a result of Labour governments, and there are many more laws that need to change in favour of women.
If you start with biology, then why did you say about Rosie Duffield saying only women have a cervix? You said it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right.
Well, look, what I said then and on other occasions is simply that I do not like the way that this becomes so quickly a toxic conversation. I want the conversation to be had with respect.
It's got pretty toxic for Rosie Duffield.
It has, but I think about that poor girl Brianna who was murdered and the terrible circumstances of that death. So her mother, of course, came into Parliament not so long ago and I met her. And I was really struck by her mother and this sense that it must be possible to have this conversation without sinking into a toxic conversation. But
yes, of course. And everyone has sympathy for Brianna Ghey and her family. My goodness, that is an absolutely appalling crime. And we can treat people who are trans women with respect and dignity. But I'll go back to your statement. You start with biology.
Yeah.
And that is what the NHS constitution is now entrenching. But you told the MP Rosie Duffield that she was wrong to say only women have a cervix.
All I was really saying there was I don't want this to go into that toxic place, but just taking you up on the issue.
I don't think we took it to the toxic place, though, with respect.
Just on the question of today, I mean, when I was Chief Prosecutor, Director of Public Prosecutions, I spent all 5 years I had working on violence against women and girls and working with women's groups in particular. And they impressed on me, quite rightly, the importance of safe spaces for women, biological women. And I've always firmly believed that and continue to work with them on that. And I want to make the reduction of violence against women and girls a major mission to the government.
How do we balance that? For instance, women's prisons only being accessible to biological women?
Well, I agree with that. And so far as the hospitals today, the NHS is concerned, I agree with that as well.
And what would you say to transgender pressure groups, who I think it's a fair prediction to say that transgender pressure groups are going to be saying that a transgender woman is a woman and should be allowed on a female ward? What, if one of them was sitting here and said that to you, what would be your response?
Well, I disagree. I disagree. Right. In the same way I disagree on safe spaces in relation to those who've survived domestic violence and abuse. What I would say, just on this question of same-sex wards, or single-sex wards, I'm sorry, is that there's clarity today of the Constitution. I'm not sure it needed clarifying, but there we are, it's being clarified. Clarity is always a good thing. But the question is availability of single-sex wards, because this was being talked about when David Cameron was Prime Minister, and he said he was going to make sure there were adequate numbers. There are less now than then.
Yes.
So what I would say to the government...
There's an issue about capacity, but I want to go back...
But that's pretty important, because the words on the page and the Constitution are not going to change anything on the ground if there isn't the availability of the wards.
Yeah, it's about what they do, not just what we say. But I just want to get the clarity. Is it right or is it wrong for Rosie Duffield to say only women have a cervix?
Well, look, biologically, she, of course, is right about that.
So do you owe her an apology?
Well, I don't want this to go back into this toxic place where everybody is divided.
Would you say sorry to Rosie Duffield for the way that she's been treated?
Look, Rosie Duffield and I get on very well. We discuss a number of issues. She's a much respected member of the Parliamentary Labour Party, and I want to have a discussion with her and anybody else about how we go forward in a positive way.
Okay.
Can we...
Sorry, just one last question on this. There will be transgender patients, female patients, who will not want to go onto male wards, and I can completely understand their position as well. So what do we do in that situation?
Well, we have to accommodate that situation as it arises, but treat everybody with respect and with dignity.
Separate rooms, then?
Well, look, I do not accept that this is an issue that cannot be resolved with respect and dignity. Look, respect and dignity are something I've carried with me since I was a boy. It's my driving values, which I got from my parents.
They are just words. So do we provide separate...
No, they're not.
Do we provide separate rooms?
They're not just words.
For transgender patients?
They're not just words.
Do we have the resources
They're
to do
about
that?
the approach you take to a situation. Where we need to make accommodations, we can make accommodations. Right. I don't think any... And look, as a country, we're a pretty reasonable, tolerant bunch. And most people know that there are a small number of individuals who do not identify with the gender that they were born into. Many of them suffer great distress and trauma. And for my part, I'm perfectly happy to say I would treat them as I would treat anybody with respect.
All right, you've made that clear. Let's